Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2026 BMW DFS Data Dive show. Welcome to the Data Dive show this evening. First off, I have to apologize for last night and the show abruptly cutting off. I lost all access to internet service and anything like that last night during the middle of my stream and my show. I love my ISP. But looks like we're doing back right now, or doing okay for the moment. We did have some severe weather last night that might have caused a lot of those issues, but I thought it already passed. Who's to say? But again, apologies for last night's show getting cut off quite abruptly as we were in the middle of looking at Belle Reve and where we are this week for the BMW Championship. So I did go or manage to get through the majority of the course flyover in Pro Visualizer last night. So if you're looking for that or you want some more information on that, make sure to check out last night's show. And then tonight we're going to cover everything that we can for the BMW and the players in the field this week, although there isn't a whole lot considering we have not seen Belle Reve since 2018 and they've made a few changes since then. Still no tournament fact sheet out. So still a little bit of guesswork on my end on how we think the course is going to play, but we're going to do our best. So let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and moving forward are from both the Rabbit Hole over at BetSperts and Fantasy National. The Rabbit Hole is acquiring or merging with Fantasy National, so I'm in the process myself of migrating all my files over to the Rabbit Hole formatting. Slow process, almost finished, but make sure you are subscribed to the Rabbit Hole. It has everything you need weekly for the PGA Tour to make the right wagers, to optimize your lineups, has a tournament simulator, a lot of articles from the great minds in the industry, and they are incorporating a lot of the old functionality from Fantasy National brought over to the Rabbit Hole. They are constantly updating the Rabbit Hole and providing new metrics and data points. So can't say enough great things about the Rabbit Hole. Make sure you're subscribed to them. It is well worth the investment. In the description to the video, there are links to all the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where normally I post research early in the week regarding some course and tournament info, patterns of previous winners, things of that nature. I've put that on hold until I get all caught up migrating from Fantasy National to the Rabbit Hole. But when that resumes, if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contests I play. That comes out every Wednesday after the DFS Tactics show. So if you want to see the players I've wagered with my own money and the players I'm using most often in my lineups, give me a follow over at X. Lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle's in the description. He writes a great article called The Fringe. Highly recommend it. It's a great way to start your week of preparation. I've worked with Gabe for quite a while now. It's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot. I can't say enough great things about the work that he does. So make sure you are subscribed to his article and show him some support. Follow him over on social media. Lastly, for this intro, we are live. Chat's open. Want to hear from you. How do you think Belle Reve is going to play this week? Who do you think has the advantage? I mentioned it last night during the intro. Kind of got cut off though. You know, does Rory bounce back? Does Colin Morikawa bounce back? How many players do you think play their way into East Lake and therefore out of East Lake? So anything and everything, BMW Championship, put your thoughts and opinions in the chat. Be more than happy to get to them. And if you're not able to catch a show live, put your thoughts and opinions into the comments. I'll always get to those as well. So let's get into it. Let's dig into the weeds of the data for the 2026 BMW Championship. We're going to start, as we always do, on a Monday night with the extended forecast for St. Louis, Missouri, and Belle Reve for the week. Good evening, Simple. Good evening, Muson. Good evening, Hanka. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. If you all were watching last night, again, my apologies as I very abruptly, suddenly, and very unexpectedly lost my internet and service in the middle of my show. So I really couldn't do much about that. It did come back later in the evening, but by that time, you know, it was far too late to try to salvage the rest of the show. So again, my apologies. I just love my ISP. No sarcasm hinted at that at all. But it's good to see you all in chat this evening. Thanks for dropping in this evening. Another week trying to hit the 200K. Let's go with this good research. We're gonna certainly try. Although I made no bones about it last night, that the last time we saw Belle Reeve was 2018, and I did not follow golf near to the level that I do now. So I don't know much about Belle Reeve, and that's just me being completely transparent with you as the viewer. So I'm going to do my best, but I'm coming into this quite blind in that regard. Feel like Such a Bum was up 200 within one shot of Scotty. Got greedy, didn't sell, ended with nothing. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, coming into Sunday, I had an outright on Burns, who was in the final group, couple shots back. It was going to be a tall task to ask him to beat Scotty, but, certainly had a chance. I had an outright on Hideki, who kind of lingered in the periphery of the championship. Of course, those guys, shoot over par. Tommy shoots over par to crush a lot of my DFS lineups. I'll just be honest, Alex Fitzpatrick was just a horrible, horrible selection last week. Jacob Bridgman was fine, finished, T30, not exactly what we were looking for as our unique play. So, a little bit of good. I full faded Rory. I felt pretty good about that one. He ends up shooting 11 billion. So I had a little bit of good, more bad. Turns out to be a bad week. So I'm going to try and certainly right the ship for the BMW, because I think this is the last week I'm going to be live for a while. I did not do anything for the Tour Championship last year. I don't think I'm going to do anything for the Tour Championship this year. I haven't decided yet. At the same time, I know Gabe doesn't do anything, picks challenge wise or anything like that for the Tour Championship. So I'm a little bit on the fence about it, but I will be here for the fall regardless. So, when the first fall event comes up in September, maybe even late August, I will be live for that, but still haven't decided about next week. But I hate to hear that you didn't have any success simple. We're going to try and turn that around. Sam Burns is still on my radar. So is Ludwig down the stretch. Had a nice visit to the ER. Hopefully that is, yeah, exactly, Hanka. Hopefully that is going to be the last. I'm going to knock on wood. I've never had a kidney stone. I know some family that has dealt with it. That does not sound pleasant, but hopefully things are well and good for you, Hanka. We will hope that all gets cleared there. Rory can't bounce back, but Fleetwood looks like some small tweaks could give him a big boost. Rory needs... to be fair to Rory, that was not a good course fit for Rory. He's generally not played well at TBC Southwind. You really the driver gets really hemmed in there, and that's obviously Rory's strong suit. Belle Reeve is a much better course fit for Rory. That said, who's to say he's on top of his game? Because he certainly hasn't been the past 3 or 4 times he's been out. So we'll definitely look into all of that as much as we can. But I just want to be fair to Rory here on your comment there, Simple, that TBC Southwind is just not a good fit for him. So I am willing to give Rory a bit more grace in that regard, in consideration this week. Now, he's still the second, third choice in the outright market. I don't think I'm going to get there in terms of betting Rory, but in terms of DFS, I can envision a world where I will play him a time or two. But that's for later down the road. Let's take a look at this forecast for Belle Reeve. This is technically a little bit southeast of the course. I'm using this Windfinder tower or accessible tower here. Belle Reeve, as you can see, is right here. And there's no real tower that is very close to it. So I'm just going over here straight east. I thought I was right here. It's straight east. This tower here. We take a look at the forecast. Doesn't look like a whole lot for the week. Maybe a little bit of rain today. Maybe a shower on Wednesday, maybe even Thursday morning. But with 50 players, there's no waves, no cut. It's just 50 guys going straight off of the first tee. Doesn't look like there's a big wave advantage or set of tee times that you would want to look at. Even so, looks like it's going to be pretty darn calm. Very little wind. Going to be hot. Maybe not as hot as Memphis, but hot. Highs 90 and above. Maybe a little bit of wind late on Sunday. We'll have to update this, and we will first thing Wednesday night for the DFS Tactics show. But for right now, it doesn't look like we need to factor in any wind or precipitation or rain into our considerations for the week. Looks very, very calm. So who is going to just play Belle Reve the best? So with that, we are going to exit out of that, and normally we would go over to the rabbit hole and BetSperts Golf, but the first thing I really want to do is I want to bring up this graph, as I was going to do this last night before I got cut off and lost service. This is the official scorecard for the 2026 BMW Championship. Remember, this is a par 70 that's measuring almost 7,450 yards. This is a very, very long course. You see that there. The 2 par 5s are in green. Your 4 par 3s are in red. This is trying to mimic the old hole composition chart from Fantasy National. You see the par 3s here at Belle Reve are very evenly split among the range buckets. One at 170, one at 187, 215, and 237. Regardless, especially the 215 and the 237, demanding a long iron into these greens. Especially this 215. This 215 is over water. So you just have to step up and hit a crisp iron shot, long iron shot into these very undulating sloped greens. Good evening, Pre. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. I said it a couple times during the intro. I'll say it again to you because I know you were here last night. Apologies for the abrupt stop in my show last night. I just completely lost internet service during the middle of the show, very unexpectedly. We had severe weather a couple hours earlier before I was live, so maybe dealing with some of that. I thought it had passed us. Either way, apologies for the abrupt ending to the show. Obviously, it was not planned that way. By the time I got my internet service back, it was just too late to try to salvage the show. But it's good to see you in chat, Pre. Very, very much appreciated. And also, it didn't register to me last night when you were talking about should have been playing the without Scotty market. You were the one that was all about Siwoo last week. And here Siwoo finishes second to Scotty. So, yes, you would have had a quite a bit of a day had you played the without Scotty market on Siwoo. As it is, hopefully you still had a decent amount of success in terms of DFS and things of that nature. But it's good to see you back in chat this evening. Thanks for giving me another chance here, although, to be fair, it was a little bit out of my control. Good to see you, Pre. Can we take a look at Justin Rose when you get a chance? I think he'll play well. We will. We can do that. We took a look at Nikolai Højgaard last night, which conceptually would be a good fit, but we'll see. But fortunately, we did make it through, I think, 16 or 17 of the flyover holes on Pro Visualizer. So what I was going to do last night, right after, if I didn't get cut off, I was going to come over to this unofficial, hole composition chart where the par 3s are evenly split. Par 4s, you do have a couple of shorter ones. I don't think they're going to be drivable. One is at 361, and then one is at 397. Now, if they move tees and pins around, maybe they make this hole drivable one day, sure. But for the most part, I don't think they are drivable in of themselves. And you got a lot of mid-length par fours here, including the start of Belle Reve, 424, 427, 438. A lot of your length really comes in on the back nine. Although you do have the converted par 5, 514 Brute. This is a par 5 for the members, playing as a par 4 this week for the BMW. So a good mix of par 4s, just like your par 3s, a good mix. You're going to have some short irons in, so long as you hit a very good tee shot. You're going to have some long irons in, no matter whether you're in the fairway or in the rough or anything like that. And then your 2 par 5s, I do think the longest hitters will be able to get home in 2. Your Brian Harmon types, I know he's not in the field, but like Brian Campbell, those types of players would probably have to play these as true 3-shot holes. But you got a couple of longer par 5s there. And then we'll go to the estimated proximity per Pro Visualizer. I would not take this. I would take this with a lot of grain of salt, is the best way to say it. I would not take this as gospel, especially since the 2 par 5s are set up in Pro Visualizer as true 3-shot holes. A lot of these holes are really pushing the tee shot into some very narrow corridors. Again, if you want to see, I'm going to say about 15 or 16 of those holes we covered last night in the initial research show from Pro Visualizer. I tried to get through as much of that as possible. So you've got a good mix of long irons and short irons, I think, this week. So we'll keep this up. I'll actually have it over here on the side to keep in mind as we go through some things for this evening. Let's take a quick look at what I almost said Fantasy National, what the Rabbit Hole has to say about Belle Reve. And again, this is really only coming from the 2018 PGA Championship. Par 70, very long. We did take a look at very long courses last night, but let's do it again. Your top performers on long and very long courses in the field this week for the BMW: Scotty, Sam Burns, Cameron Young, Patrick Cantlay, Alex Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose, Xander, JT Poston, and Rory are your top 10 in terms of total performance on long courses. So a good start to your question there, Pre, about Justin Rose. Rose has played very well this calendar year on long courses. Of course, the win at the Farmers, absolutely. The Masters, which he played very well. Now, Doral was not very good. If we just take a look at this, his performance this year on long and very long courses. Now, let's see, U.S. Open, he played well. Of course, the win at the Farmers. Masters was a top 5. The Cadillac was 65th out of however many, 72 or whatever. He also didn't play all that well at Quail Hollow, but he's been good lately. And then if we take off the filters of long and very long and just get a gauge for what he's done lately, it's okay, I think. I have a feeling that off the tee is going to be a very big component this week, Pre. And I'm a little bit worried about that for Justin Rose. Just slightly. Like, his irons have been fine. I know these are red, but just take a look at the actual values. It's 400ths over 2 rounds. So, basically field average. 1400ths over 4 rounds. Essentially field average. The irons have been fine. The putter is going a little bit. I do worry about off the tee because distance matters here. That is the one thing that I have heard from a couple of other pundits and places that I like to listen to and get some information from, distance is definitely going to matter here. Like the comparison courses here, TPC Craig Ranch, the place, it's a birdie fest, which I don't think Belle Reve is going to be a birdie fest, but you've got a lot of room to miss off the tee, but distance matters there. Quail Hollow, distance matters. Bay Hill, long irons and good driving. And you saw Justin Rose didn't necessarily play well at Quail. Bay Hill wasn't all that great, I don't think, for Justin Rose. So a little good, a little bad. I think I like Rose a little bit more than Højgaard, if you're asking me to compare the two. At 6,800, he certainly could look like he could be a deal in terms of DFS. But like Alex Noren's playing well right now. Højgaard makes a lot of sense. Alex Smalley's playing well right now. You want to talk about long and straight? Gary Woodland at 6,600. So I don't know if I'll get to Justin Rose at 6,800, but I like him a little bit more than, say, Ben Griffin, probably more than Jacob Bridgman. Although, what did Bridgman do last week? What were his stats like? Okay, he was. Let me remove these filters. Yeah, he lost it in the ball striking, but the putter stayed hot. So I'll probably like Rose more than Bridgman. We looked at Højgaard last night. Smalley's playing better now. I don't know. It's a little tough. But no doubt about it, Rose has been very good on these long and very long courses in 2026. We could look at Robert Trent Jones designs. That's not my favorite. I generally try to look at like Pete Dye or Don Ross, things of that nature. I have no clue what the scoring conditions are going to be. If they want to set this up like a major championship, it could be tough. Like what we saw at the St. Jude last week. Yes, Scotty won at 17, but hell, Siwoo was 10 under, 9 under in second. So, it was tough at the St. Jude. So they could, if they set it up like a major championship, you could look at maybe 15 under, 16 under, like Brooks got to here. But very quickly you get into the single digits from the PGA Championship in 2018. But if they don't set it up that way, maybe it's a little bit more gettable. You also have the best, the top 50 players on the PGA Tour here. Maybe they do light it up a little bit. I truly don't know. What we do know is that these are bent greens. They were kept fairly slow in 2018. I don't know if that's going to be the case. They will have to water them since these are bent, not Bermuda. So we will definitely be looking at some bent putting. They are extremely large greens. Rough was kept long, but and it was difficult to play out of. So that's why I think the driver is going to matter quite a bit. Even though it's a mixed off the tee club type, if you find guys that are long and straight, a la Rory when he's playing well, they're going to have a major advantage, like Brooks, like Tiger, Adam Scott, John Rahm, Stuart Sink. Even though he wasn't as old then, but he was a bomber back in the day. So definitely going to look at quite a bit off the tee there. Around the green, I think it's going to be fairly important, only because much like what we saw at Southwind last week, I don't think these greens are going to be very easy to hit. I know it says average here, but if you take a look at approach, greens from the rough, 45%, fairway was 79%. So guys are going to be needing to be pretty darn accurate with their driver to give themselves a chance to hit these greens. These greens aren't going to be easy to hit regardless, unless they're in the fairway. Putting, we'll just take a look at bent. Being a par 70, we're going to have quite a bit of emphasis in par 4 scoring. Yeah, I mean, again, there's not a whole lot we can dig into historically here for Bellerive. It's just the 2018 PGA. I would not feel comfortable going all the way back to 2008, and you don't even get the stats for that. So we're going to do our best tonight as we go through each of these page views here. But we looked at long. I'm going to hold off on difficult. My assumption is that it's going to be difficult, but we really don't know. So instead, why don't we look at a couple of other kind of big picture views? We'll really talk about par 4s when we get there, but there's a skill set to playing par 70s. You know, when you don't have par 5s to take advantage of, who can score on these myriad of different styles, particularly long par 4s? On par 70 tracks this calendar year, your top performers have been Scotty, Sam Burns, Matt Fitzpatrick, Hideki, Tommy, Chris Goddard, Tom Kim, Xander, Siwoo, and Victor Hovland. So now let's talk about the Tommy. You asked or casually mentioned Tommy a while back. Simple. Very good on bent. That's a great start. And he's been playing extremely well. I know Sunday wasn't very good at the St. Jude, but Sunday wasn't very good for a lot of players at the St. Jude. Tommy played okay, and he's been playing okay lately. If you remove this par 70 filter, you know, he's gained strokes off the tee very consistently all the way back to Harbor Town in April. The irons have been good, not great. The around the greens have been solid. My issue with Tommy this week is nothing to do with Tommy. It's about his pricing. They've got Tommy at $10,900, where Sam Burns is $10,400. Sam Burns is just as good of a putter, if not better, on bent specifically. Burns is just a better putter in general. Burns has also been playing excellent lately. Yes, he was bad off the tee at the St. Jude, but look, most of it came just Sunday. He had a couple of bad tee shots on Sunday that cost him. He's had three top 3 finishes in his past 4 events. The other one was a top 15 at the Travelers. I don't understand why Sam Burns is cheaper than Tommy by a significant margin in terms of DFS. That's my issue with Tommy this week, because I'm still thinking Sam Burns is going to be pretty darn solid, especially since you don't really have a whole lot of places you can get into trouble at Bellerive off the tee. There are a couple of holes, yes, but mostly the water is guarding greens, not in play off the tee. I think the one exception I'm thinking of is hole 2, where you have to miss right because you have water all along the left. So that's my issue. I like both of these players. I just like the fact that Sam Burns is 500 less. Now, if we get to Wednesday night, Sam Burns is 28, 30%, and Tommy's 18 to 20%, I'm going to tell you differently, and I'm going to tell you I'm going to Tommy. But all things in a vacuum, if they have the same ownership, I'm just going to go to Sam Burns. I'm probably going to go to Sam Burns even if he's a little bit more popular. I don't know what that number is to flip me from Burns to Fleetwood, but he has to be probably significantly more because of this pricing. Scotty at 14.4, no 5K range. Scotty's going to be a little bit difficult to build this week. Not saying you can't do it, but it's going to be difficult. Anyway, there's a look at your top par 70 performers in 2026. Last thing we can take a look at, let's take a look at signature events. Or actually, even better, let's take a look at these no-cut events. In no-cut events this calendar year, your top performers have been Scotty, Matt Fitzpatrick, Patrick Cantlay, who's been playing some surprisingly steady golf lately. Always good on bent. I know it's very close to average, but he's generally pretty darn good on bent. And Cantlay's put up some pretty good numbers lately. Top 15 last week at the St. Jude, where the irons and the off the tee game was great. He lost some strokes putting. You can accept that. He played extremely well at the Rocket Classic. This is also, even though it doesn't say it here on the course fact page, Detroit is a pretty good comparison course, especially off the tee, for Belle Reve. And you see Patrick Cantlay was fine, especially with the irons. He had a bad tournament at the Scottish, but Cantlay's been fairly solid lately, so there's a lot to like there. Tommy, been good on these no-cut events. Ricky, Sam Burns, Morikawa, Spawn, Ludwig, and Alex Fitzpatrick. Who was it that mentioned Ludwig? Was that you, Hanka? Yes, Burns and Ludwig. So here's the Ludwig deep dive for you, Hanka. Somebody I'm quite interested in this week. I did put in a win wager on Ludwig. I didn't like his price, but I figured the price would just continue to go down. So I bet him at 20 or 21 to 1. I didn't love it, but this does feel like a very good fit for Ludwig. Decent enough putter on bent. I know the putter hasn't cooperated lately, but at a course that doesn't feel like a good fit for Ludwig, he absolutely lit that place up last week. He was solid last week. Good at the Open, obviously. Now the Scottish, it wasn't a bad miscut considering he gained strokes ball striking. I like this fit for Ludwig. Now, he's going to have to gain 5.5 off the tee, which he very well can. The irons are going to have to stay. They're going to have to stay in the green. They're going to have to warm up a little bit from, 0.3 over 4 rounds. But I do like this fit for Ludwig this week. So he fits, I think, strokes gained total. And I mentioned it last week. I know Ricky didn't have the huge finish that, I might have kind of foreshadowed or hinted at. Ricky goes as the putter goes. He putted well, finished right in the middle of the field. His driver kind of let him down a little bit, but the irons were still fine. This could probably be a decent spot for Ricky still. He is one of the few players that played here in 2018. I think he played pretty well. 2018 PGA Championship. Yeah, top 15 here. Now, this is going back several years. Ricky is obviously a different player now than he was then. But he's at least played here. He played well here. It's not nothing, is what I'll say. So, kind of like Ricky a little bit too, especially in the mid to lower sevens. But anyway, there's your top players in these no-cut events in 2026. Wyndham or Xander? I think for me it's got to be Wyndham, just because he's put up more consistent results lately. Anything else I want to look at in terms of like strokes gained total? Bent we'll obviously look at for putting. Off the tee stuff here, we'll look at off the tee. Yeah. You could look at maybe calm wins. I'm not going to be factoring this in at all in terms of my considerations, but your top performers in calm wins, considering the forecast we looked at: Scotty, Henley, Cantlay, Siwoo, Jake Knapp, Nikolai, Justin Rose, Rory, Alex Fitz, Cameron Young, and Michael Brennan. But getting to Wyndham Clark, Wyndham Clark's put up, very consistent results recently. Bent is his best surface, simple. And going to a course that I did not think fit him well, like the St. Jude and TBC Southwind, he top fives. Now, a lot of that is from, I think, a spectacular Sunday where he was out early and everybody kind of melted. So I'll be a little bit hesitant on that one, only slightly. But, Rocket, it's not, I'll take that back. Rocket is a good fit in terms of off the tee in comparison, and he lost quite a bit there. The Open, fine. Like, he wins the U.S. Open, which this feels a lot like Shinnecock Hills in that regard, that you have quite a bit of miss room. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go with Wyndham on this one, coming off the complete gain at the St. Jude, whereas you take a look at Xander. Say Wyndham's at 87, Xander at 99, and Xander played better than I gave him credit for at the St. Jude as well. But Wyndham also played well at TBC Craig Ranch, at the Byron Nelson. Xander didn't play there. This one's actually fairly close. But I do like the fit more for Wyndham Clark than I do Xander. Because Wyndham, TBC Craig Ranch, Wyndham won there this year. So I don't think it's going to be easy like TBC Craig Ranch, but this idea of just get it, hit it, and go find it and hit it again, meaning like there's not a whole lot of trouble there. You don't have to worry too much about clubbing down, although a couple holes you might around here. I don't know. I like this here from Wyndham. Now, you don't expect him to gain 12.5 on these greens, but don't forget, these are bent greens as well at TBC Craig Ranch. So, closer than I would have thought when you asked the question, but I do think I favor Wyndham over Xander, all things in a vacuum simple. Now, in terms of outright wagers, if that's what you're asking, I don't remember what their odds are, but Xander's usually pretty deflated because he's a very popular player. But I know Wyndham was pretty darn low too. So, if you're asking wagers, it's really hard without me knowing exactly what their odds are. DFS, I think I'm favoring Wyndham, although it's a lot closer than I thought. But anyway, there's a look at your top performers in calm wins. Let's start going through some of these page views here. Let's go off the tee. And let's go off the tee when... let's see, we got a high rough penalty. Average missed fairway penalty, meaning it doesn't look like the fairway bunkers are all that hard to play out of. So let's just go who's been best off the tee lately, just to get a baseline. Your top off the tee players last 24 rounds: Rory, Chris Goddard, Scotty. There's Gary Woodland. I think this is probably a pretty good fit for Gary. Cameron Young makes a lot of sense. Xander's been great off the tee lately. Ludwig, Ryan Gerard, Hideki, and Michael Brennan. are your top 10 in terms of off the tee. And I do think off the tee is going to have quite a bit of weight this week, whether it's in off the tee or in various other metrics in here. I am going to have quite a bit off the tee. Guys who have not been good off the tee lately: Akshay, Matt McCarty, Sahith Theegala, Eric Cole, Smalley, Sepp Straka. Unfortunately, Nikolai has not been very good off the tee lately. Ben Griffin, McNeely, Bobby Mack. Justin Rose is what I was telling you pre. I do worry a little bit about Justin Rose and his off the tee game. Noren, Poston, Echeverria. Anyway, there's your top off the tee players. Let's take a look at total driving. I think this is going to be a pretty good metric this week. You're going to need to be long, so we'll take a look at driving distance as well, but you're going to need to be accurate. These guys that are long and accurate. Look at that. Number 1, Gary Woodland. I like it. Gary Woodland, Victor, Thorbjornsen, Xander, Colin Morikawa, Gerard, Tommy, Cameron Young, Chris Goddard, Ludwig, Justin Rose, Ryo Itsatsune, and Scotty. Your top 13 in terms of total driving. And I think that's going to have a decent weight this week. I do think distance is a little bit more important than accuracy this week, I think. I could be wrong with this, but that's the way I'm leaning on a Monday night. Your top driving distance players in the field: Rory, Goddard, Cam Young, Michael Brennan, Højgaard, Wyndham Clark, Minwoo Lee, Ludwig, Ryan Fox, and Gary Woodland. Take a look at what Gary Woodland's done lately. Why is his salary so low? What am I missing here? He hasn't had like the top end finishes. Like, he misses the cut at the Open. Travelers was darn near dead last. That is not a good event for Gary Woodland. Like, if we look at historical Travelers for him, he generally doesn't play the Travelers very well. So you can forgive him for that. But 71st out of 71 or 72 players. So he finishes almost dead last at the Travelers. Misses the cut at the Open. You know, was kind of mediocre last week. I think this is a better course fit for Gary. Again, you look at Shinnecock, a place that I think is quite comparable to what we're going to see here. He was very, very good. Memorial, you don't expect him to lose 6 on approach. In fact, the rabbit hole in BetSmarts Golf has Colonial as a comparison course. Don't know how much I really believe in that, but he top 10 Colonial this year. Didn't play at the Byron Nelson, so we can't take a look at that. But Memorial Park, one of the top comparison courses. Oh no, that's Craig Ranch, Houston. But still, Houston, Memorial Park Golf Course. Long, par 70. Very long, par 70. Even longer than what we're going to be playing here at Bellerive. Driver heavy. These are POA overseeded greens, but Memorial Park makes quite a bit of sense for Bellerive. Woodland won there this year, so I like Woodland. I don't know if I'm eager to go wager him outright this week, but I do think he's underpriced at $6,600. Simple. So anyway, there's your top distance. There's your top total drivers. If we take a look at, let's just go with the easy. Rough penalty high. When players know there's a penalty for being in the rough, your top off the tee players: Woodland, Ludwig, Michael Brennan could be interesting again this week, Siwoo, Bud Cauley, Tommy, Cameron Young, Russell Henley, Xander, and JJ Spawn. Your top 10 off the tee when there's a high rough penalty. Let's move to irons, strokes gained approach, if the rabbit hole will cooperate. Doesn't look like it will. Approach, January 1st, last 24 rounds. Your top iron players in the field this week, last 24 rounds. Number 1 is Sam Burns. I can't stress it enough. This is why I'm going to go to Sam Burns over Tommy in DFS. His irons have just been really, really strong lately. 6 last week at St. Jude, 5 1/4 at the Open, 4 1/2, 6, 2 1/4, 6. It's just, irons have never been his thing. He's always been driver putter, and the irons are hot right now. So give me Sam Burns. Tom Kim, Victor, makes a lot of sense for this place if he's, playing his A game. He hadn't been great on bent, but in the last 12 months, it's only 6 rounds. I wouldn't get too carried away with that. Victor could be interesting. His irons have been great lately. Now he would have to clean this up since losing 2 straight off the tee, but Victor could be interesting. Scotty, Cantlay, Matt Fitz, Siwoo, Colin Morikawa, Hideki, and Alex Fitzpatrick are your top 10 iron players coming into the week. Rose just sitting outside the top 10. Cameron Young, I think, is also a decent bet to bounce back this week from a lackluster, I guess is probably the best word, St. Jude. First time he had lost strokes since the Travelers and approach. He still gained slightly off the tee. This is a much better fit. Like Wyndham Clark, like Højgaard. This feels like a much better fit for Cam Young. As long as he's a decent putter, I think it's a decent bounce back spot for Cam Young. Guys who have not been hitting their irons very well: Sepp, Eric Cole, McNeely, Justin Thomas. Unfortunately, Gary Woodland has not been hitting his irons all that well. Gerard, Sungjae, Noren, McCarty, Rory. Let's take a look at Rory. I do think this is a decent bounce back spot for Rory. He's better on bent. The key with Rory is that this has to get cleaned up. I'm not worried about this, poor performance off the tee last week. Like I said, the St. Jude really hems you in. It doesn't let you freely hit driver. I'm most concerned with Rory about this. 4 straight losing strokes on approach. 2 straight that he's lost a lot on the greens. Again, I think this is a better fit for Rory, but he's obviously not playing his A game right now. He played here in 2018 for sure. PGA, he made the cut, so nothing spectacular there. Like I said, I'm just not fully writing off. I basically wrote off Rory from the start of the week last week. I'm not willing to write him off fully just yet for this week because I do like the course fit for him. But anyway, there's a look at your worst iron players last 24 rounds coming into this week. We will take a look at, I'm not going to look at opportunities as much tonight. Let's just take a look at overall approach proximity. I do want to look at like 100 to 150 because you have a few scoring holes. If we bring back this this chart really quick, 424, 427, 361, 397. Even if you club down and hit 280 off of these tees, you're still left with scoring clubs in your hand. 438, 417. So you get a decent number of short irons or wedges, but you're also going to have quite a few long irons into these greens. 215, 237, 200 plus easy on these par fives. 514, 510, 495. You know, you're going to have some long irons as well. So I think it's a good mix. Your top proximity players, 100 to 150 yards. Bridgman, Gerard, Tom Kim, Siwoo Kim, Russell Henley, Alex Fitzpatrick, Ricky, Aaron Rai, Batia, Cameron Young, Ryan Fox. Your top 11. Tommy just outside the top 11 there. Or top 10, I guess. Rose is up here. And then your top 200 plus. Brennan, Ludwig, Alex Fitz. I'm going to get suckered into playing Alex Fitz some more, aren't I? God. Thorbjornsen, Cameron Young, Riyad Satsune, Adam Scott. Adam Scott played extremely well here in 2018. Finished third solo. So, if you're going to put a whole lot of stock into 2018, don't overlook Adam Scott. Gary Woodland, excellent, 200 plus. Sepp Straka, Hideki, Burns just outside, Matt Fitzpatrick just outside the top 10 there. Smalley, Kitayama, always a threat with long irons. So that's where I'm at in terms of proximity. I might have something with opportunities gained, 101 to 150, maybe 151 to 175 if I get if I essentially get confirmation that, more approach shots are coming from that range. But coming into it blind this week, I think I'm at 200 plus. Like 100 to 150 and 200 plus. Your full fading Rose and Rory. Don't think Rose is the same since the injury. Rory doesn't appear interested in the PGA postseason. Yes and no. I do think Rory cranks it up a little bit for get into preparation for Eastlake next week. Rose is interesting. I don't hate the Rose call out in terms of being interested. We'll have to see. We will just take a quick look at around the green. Last 24 rounds. Again, I don't have any idea whether it's sand, whether it's rough, whether it's short grass that's going to play mostly here at Bellerive. But we're just going to take a look at it in total. Actually, we'll take a look at scrambling too. So, strokes gained around the green. JT, that's Justin Thomas not posting. Tommy Fleetwood, Hideki, Bud Cauley, Wyndham Clark, Thorbjornsen, Matt Fitzpatrick, Eric Cole, Gerard, and Sungjae. Your top around the green players. I do want to look at scrambling specifically on bent greens. Scrambling incorporates some putting as well. Your top scramblers, how many rounds is this? Not enough. So I'm going to have to back this out to 2025. Your top scramblers on bent. Scotty, Chris Goddard, Smalley, Tommy, Siwoo, Tom Kim, Nico Echeverria, Ben Griffin, Jake Knapp, Rory, Bridgman, Cantlay, Sungjae, Burns, Matt Fitzpatrick in the top 15 there. Okay. Did you mention Rio? Yeah. Rio's been up here on a couple of things. He was good from 200 plus. He was good. He was good something else too. My issue with Rio this week, at least conceptually simple, is I think he's one of the shorter hitters in this field. Maybe not the shortest. Okay, he's 22nd. But he's much more known as like accuracy. And I think distance is more important this week. What's Rio done? Not a very good putter. Yeah. Like 4 straight finishes outside the top 50. I know this is technically a top 50 being T50, but whatever. 4 straight finishes outside the top 50. The putter has really abandoned him lately. He's just generally not a good putter. When he spikes, that's when you get the T10s. But you don't know when he's going to spike. Yeah. I don't know. If I'm playing a whole lot of Scotty at 14.4, I'm going to have to find somebody down there at the bottom of the price board. Like I don't have any interest in Sepp Straka, McCarty, not really Tagala. At the same price, simple, why wouldn't you just come to Ryan Fox, who just won the Open Championship? I don't know. No interest really in Batia. Rayton, however you pronounces it. I'm probably going to get suckered into playing a little bit more Alex Fitz again this week. I don't hate Rio, but I think there's better options. Echeverria could be interesting. He played well, but here's the thing. He is all about Bermuda putting. And that's why he kind of popped last week at the St. Jude on those Bermuda greens. He didn't really ball strike it. He wasn't horrible. He gained strokes ball striking, sure. But, again, like Rio's got 4 finishes T50 or worse. Nico's got 2 straight top 15s. Now, having said that, those are on Bermuda surfaces. He played the Rocket, where it was bent, or bent and POA. He lost essentially everything. So, Nico's not without some warts there either. He did play well at a supposed comp course at the Charles Schwab. I would much rather look at Memorial Park. You just go and hit it hard as you can and go find it. Did not suit him well. He didn't play TBC Craig Ranch. I think I like Rio more than Nico, but like I said, I would probably much rather just go to Ryan Fox or Rayton. Probably going to go back to Alex Fitzpatrick, Gary Woodland. I don't know. Rio's probably not as bad as I'm thinking if you're down this far in the price board, but that's why I don't know if I'm going to like Scotty lineups this week, because I don't know if I'm going to like going down to Rio or Ryan Fox. We'll have to see. Putting. Definitely don't want to ignore this. Top putters on bent. I'll go back to 2025. Top putters on bent. Sam Burns. Another reason why I think Roy's due for a bounce back. He's much, much better on bent than he is Bermuda. That's a more than a full shot difference per round. Bent to Bermuda. Scotty, Tommy, Alex Noren, Eric Cole, Ben Griffin, Gary, Batia, Alex Smalley, your top 10 putters on bent past 18, 20 months or so. Last thing for tonight, I think. I take that back. We'll look at one more thing. Par 4 efficiency, your top par 4 performers. Definitely going to be extremely important this week. Top par 4 performers lately, Scotty. Gosh dang it, I did not mean to click that. Hideki, Sam Burns, Tom Kim, Bridgman, Ryan Fox, Wyndham Clark, Patrick Hanley, Thorbjornsen, Matt Fitz, I think Xander, 11th. Nico right there as well. So Maybe not the worst shout. Simple. Henley, Spawn, Gerard, Ludwig, Rory. All right. One thing that I think is going to be pretty interesting, I want to take a look at ball speed. Distance, I think, is going to matter. I want to see the top ball speeds. Nikolai Højgaard. Actually, let's go last 24 rounds. Ball speed lately. Højgaard. Michael Brennan makes a lot of sense here. Gary Woodland. Rory. Minwoo. Cameron Young. Jake Knapp. Xander. All right, credit to you, Xander. I didn't think you had that kind of ball speed, but you do. Goddard. I like Kurt Kitayama quite a bit. There's your top 10. Adam Scott, Wyndham Clark, Burns, Ludwig, Ben Griffin, Ryan Fox. There's your top ball speed players. So, unfortunately, we don't have anything to do with BMW championships since they rotate and change courses. I'll sort on salary. That's going to be it for a Data Dive show this evening. Again, my apologies for last night's show getting cut abruptly. Losing internet service really sucked. But fortunately, we made it through this evening. Thanks to Simple, Muson, Hanka, and Pre for jumping into chat. Very, very much appreciated. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. Always appreciate it. Love what I do. Taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician's view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. Do me a favor. I hate self-promotion, but it really does help. If you liked going into the deep statistical dives into these players, the hypotheticals on what we think is going to play well around Belle Reve, hit that like button. It does help me out if you do that. If you're so inclined, subscribe to the channel. I'm live 3 nights a week covering in-depth, in detail golf statistics with, again, the idea of trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process, trying to find values in the outright market and some hidden gems in DFS. So thanks again for all the support. Very, very much appreciated. For all of the wagers you've made so far this week for the BMW, for all the wagers you're thinking about making this week for the BMW, and until I see you Wednesday night for the DFS Tactics show, may all your bets be profitable.